Heavy exchange of fire between Israel and Gaza on Monday night after Hamas announced an Egyptian brokered ceasefire. It comes as the US officially recognizes Israeli sovereignty over Syria's Golan Heights, a move that's been condemned by the UN, the EU and the Arab League. Despite no collusion found between Donald Trump and Russia, media hysteria isn't dying down. News outlets are now trying to find out who's responsible for blowing the allegations out of proportion.
I would like to congratulate the House for taking control. The government's approach has been an abject failure, and this House must now find a solution.
British MPs tussle for control in Parliament and seize Brexit from Theresa May, paving the way for alternatives to her divorce plan. It's midday here in Moscow, and you're watching RT International from our studio with me, Nadira Tudor. Welcome to the programme. The Israeli army says it's hit 15 targets in Gaza after 30 rockets were fired from the Palestinian territory on Monday night. The exchange comes after Hamas announced an Egyptian brokered ceasefire. There had been an earlier exchange of fire on Monday, with Israel taking out a number of Hamas buildings in response to a rocket attack from Gaza. We're going to cross live to our journalist Martin Hemmel in Tel Aviv. We hope the connection's okay there. Martin, what happened to the Egyptian brokered ceasefire announced by Hamas?
Well, at this stage, it's sort of like an informal ceasefire. Hamas says they're not going to fire because they think there's a ceasefire. Israel doesn't know anything about a ceasefire in quotation marks. That means that they're saying, basically, if you guys keep it quiet, meaning Hamas keeps it quiet, Israel's going to keep it quiet. So for now, the Egyptians have basically got everybody to look away from the battlefield, take a breather, take a pause, and each side is watching what the other side might do or not do. And since about 3 a.m. local time, it's been quiet.
Now, the Israel Prime Minister, he's promised new tough measures against Palestine. What should we expect?
Well, there's so many tough measures going on right now, it's a little hard to assess that. Basically, the only options he has to ratchet up the pressure is to attack very sensitive Hamas targets. There is talk of maybe resuming a policy of targeted assassinations against Hamas leaders. That certainly would be escalating what's been going on here. But you know, there's a certain momentum now of quiet, so maybe it's a lot of tough talk, a lot of posturing, everybody looking each other in the eye, but as long as each hour stays quiet and another hour of quiet follows, we might be heading to more, maybe somewhat of a relaxation of tension rather than a resuming of attacks, though anything is possible in this region.
Okay, from Tel Aviv, journalist Martin Hemmel, thanks very much. The exchange of fire comes as US President Donald Trump officially recognizes Israeli sovereignty over Syria's Golan Heights, an area the UN regards as occupied territory. RT's Igor Zhdanov joined me in the studio earlier to discuss the international reaction.
Well, the international community has been somewhat pushed under the bus by this whole decision. The most vocal in this have been, of course, the Arab countries. The whole of Arab League made public a joint statement condemning the decision, really standing out a condemnation by Saudi Arabia, for instance, you know, Washington's bestie in the Gulf. So it kind of tells the scale of the fallout this Trump's decision has had. Turkey also has condemned the move. Russia voiced its concerns in regards to the stability of the Middle East because Moscow believes that such a decision by Trump really undermines that. Also, well, Syria, of course, it's their territories. That's how international community, that's how the UN sees the Golan Heights as a Syrian territory.
The UN's policy on Golan is reflected in the relevant resolutions of the Security Council, and that policy has not changed.
The European Union, in line with international law, does not recognize Israel's sovereignty over the territories occupied by Israel since June of 1967, including the Golan Heights, and does not consider them to be part of Israel's territory.
I suppose we need to understand what exactly is at stake in the Golan. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. The Golan Heights is a strip of land on the border between Syria and Israel. Back in the 80s, in the course of a war, it was occupied by Israel, and that is how it is classified internationally. That's how UN puts it, that it is a Syrian territory occupied by Israel.